or Arab slave masters. I've heard that kind of rhetoric.
Right. Why do you think that happens? Where do you think that comes from? Could it be connected to the identity thing we're talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
So when a black person converts to Islam, obviously all of a sudden they may have, I wouldn't say less affiliation, but rather than considering themselves just in the black community, they may see themselves as part of a wider.
And there are a group who do this is correct, but there are also a group who pretty much completely disassociate. And they identify black as negative or unworthy to be. And this is the challenge we face. And you'll see me speaking, and you'll see many come up and give their 10 pence piece. So, but it's interesting when I look at the European community. This is not similar. I'm not necessarily seeing.
Would that be because, just one thing I'll say, black community generally, if they don't have a strong connection to their background, their culture, then they have nothing to sort of fall back on. When they become Muslim, they just see Islam. If they have a strong culture, like say Nigerian or Ghanaian, if they know their history and their ancestors and all these things, then they're more likely to stick by their name.
That's the whole,
like Jordan.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, if they're from Nigeria and so forth, they would be born into a Muslim community. Africa.
I think it's 50-50, isn't it? Nigeria?
Yeah, but I think with Africa, there is a strong Muslim presence. Like with the Caribbean, it was colonized more so by Christians.
We need to get black Muslims. The other thing I'll say about the white Muslims that I do know as well, the ones that have changed their name, like you said, have actually kept their English name still. Because you can do both. You can, for instance, you can be Chris and still have Isa attached to
I'm Malcolm X. El Hajj Malik Shabazz, but you kept Malcolm X.
You mentioned culture. So, do Muslims have a culture that is separate from white and black culture?
That's a good question. See, for me, I always try and separate the two because Islam is culture to me.
Islam's without.
Yes, man, we've got 3 light.
Yeah, well, because you've got obviously one thing as a reaver I've tried to do is I notice certain things that maybe Asian Muslims do, perhaps black Muslims. So they'll do certain things that are their culture rather than Islam, and I try and separate them. Does that make sense?
So you try and separate Islam.
Islam is there, isn't it? Islam is to me is obviously the truth and God's word and things like that. So to call it a culture is zero, but obviously in our countries we have different cultures, don't we? Which can make people act differently or exert influence from the country.
Right. Okay. So
we're talking about your view on homosexuality or your view towards women. These could be affected by your culture, and it may look like people may say, "Oh, look at the way the Muslims treat it." It may actually be Islam, maybe the fact that they are from a certain part.
Right. So you could have a gay Muslim.
Chase the other bad down and push them over in the
That's it. Yeah, I mean, you can't.
You can't have a gay Muslim.
Here's what it is, right? Because it's our corner, this is an amazing topic. We can go down there. That needs to be talked about. We can take it on If I was to say that, could you be a murderer?
You got fucked over.
Exactly. So then,
it's like being
your guy as well.
something like accept
yeah, I already packed him up.
Therefore, meaning that means you can't really take them out.
And then he rolled on him, and they brought me next hand back.
I think they're really good. But in order for this conversation to progress, we need to have other people who's going to join in to talk about identity and the topic of joining new cultures and changing the name from the black perspective.
While we're waiting, can I go into something? Go to a question about.
Is it connected to black?
Yeah, it is. No, because I've been watching the COE. I've been watching Leon's COE. There's been a lot of things on Black history that I've watched. I've learned a lot about Marcus Garvey. I've actually been watching a lot of them. And I was on a stream the other day, and I think
why is my thing doing
there's a guy called Shaka.
Them things there.
Shaka Ross. No, so he was talking about it, and all of a sudden it seemed quite reasonable, and all of a sudden it got heated. And he said the white man. He kept saying the white man, the white man. So I put a comment in saying, who is the white man? Am I the white man? Because I generally wanted to know when a black person is saying the white man. Am I part of the conversation? So yeah, well, that's what I wanted to know. So I had different checker icons.
It's a yes and no. So it's a yes and no. So basically, as I see it,
and put them into a
If they're talking about in an oppressive state, they're talking about the white historical power structure that has clearly divided people based on race. So when black people talk about retribution of things done to them, when they say the white man, they're talking about that power elite. Now
does that reflect on
better power out of the West, but you might benefit from it. But you wouldn't be directly talking about, but you might be connected to the country as part of it. They're not thinking of you. They're thinking of the power
I think that's what I was trying to do. Obviously, I think it's quite good if white people are watching these streams as well. I think if the terminology is the white man, you may turn white people off from watching it. And I think it's quite important messages to white people. I mean, Shakra made a point in the comments was that why should we change our terminology for the white man as well? And he went on to say that.
Oh yeah, and
I do get these.
We can unfold it. Yeah. So it's like, you know. This is how people speak. There has to be a truth to what someone's saying. Right? And I think because so many days go by, so many years go by, we forget the truth of what someone's saying. So for example, there was a time where there was a divide, where it was you were white and being white meant you had certain legal rights and black people didn't. So in that sense, all the standards comes from them. So the white man comes from that. There was a clear divide. Now today, if we see a legacy of that process, they're going to see the same language. For example, you hear about everyone who's like they turn now, a lot of people think black is like a very big. In reality, black is defining is the man who used to have the crack on him, right? And he used to whip on the stage back. So when someone calls someone a crack, they refer to that you're still keeping on the same mentality mind. So it's a different analogy, a different concept connected to an actual thing. And I think white man, not white man, because see, so what I'm saying is it's the white man, it's the white power structure.
My assumption was they were talking about historical people, but I wanted that clarified. And, you know, I do speak to black people, and sometimes I do wonder because I recognise that in the society we live in, there isn't strict racism. There are still things happening from history that have repercussions over on us, and I see all that happening. And, you know, and sometimes you speak to a black person and you feel like they're sort of holding you accountable. You're benefiting from it. It's quite hard to know for me.
Are you benefiting?
Are you benefiting?
Yes. So but you're correct. The way we see things, when you define what is white supremacy, right? You have to break it down. When you're closer to 1%, it's something to identify. So meaning that yes, me and you live in England, which could be the heart of white supremacy. The philosophy was built in this country, right? So the fact that I'm here, by definition, means I can benefit from the legacy of it, right? Yeah. But then a black person in Africa is going to benefit less. But then a black person in Africa who speaks English will benefit more than a black person in Africa who doesn't, right? So the systems and the cultural norms that were made historically in this land is what we're talking about. So yes, I benefit from that as well.
And I'll be honest with you, I didn't really, before coming to Speaker's Corner, because I've actually appeared in on the G-Circuit a couple of times as well, I've never even bothered looking into it. I actually used to believe there was an institutional racism, and I don't think I'm a dumb bloke, but I actually thought you meet policemen and they're decent blokes. There's no, you know, if you're going to do that job, you're probably doing it for a good reason. But I remember seeing one G-Circuit, I'll keep it short, I saw one G-Circuit where I think Raspek was talking to some really articulate young black men who were saying that they were stopped and searched, and they were saying it in a way where they were almost abused. It wasn't just a stop and search, it was almost like a demasculating experience for them. And these were like well-dressed, well-spoken, because I always thought the people that get stopped over are the roadmen looking ones with hoodies, and even if they're white, they're going to get stopped over, they're walking around like that. But these were actually black, young, articulate men. It made me look, well, hang on a minute, I've never been stopped and searched. I've only seen the police once when I was driving a bit too fast. I've never been, I live in the same areas.
Did they let you go after?
Yeah, no issue at all.
I didn't say so you're speaking.
What would you say to me saying that because you identify yourself as not just a Muslim, but a white Muslim, as soon as you identify yourself as white, you become part of the faith of whiteness. Does that make sense? No, I'm just not white and whiteness. Yeah? So whiteness is the belief system.
Can you define white? Because I think you asked me and I don't really know, but you clearly have.
Oh, you don't know me, but you
no, I identified. I gave you my definition.
But what is a whiteness?
I said it was a British growing up in British values. That was my decision. Now, I know probably roughly what yours will be, but good to know.
Well, it's already defined by the race code.
But what's wrong with the race codes?
Well, that's a different question.
I used to work with either walkie-talkie, and you need to describe somebody. There's nothing wrong with saying
Yeah. We're not talking about right and wrong at the moment. We'll go there.
but the race codes are important.
Right. Well, that whole issue is another issue. But I want to talk about this. You said white Muslim, and then you was mentioning black Muslim. See, so but in the word black, you're not just talking about Islam. You're not just talking about Muslim. As soon as you put the word black in there, then he has to come with white. Yeah. So we'll leave the Muslim here, and then we deal with black and white. Yeah. So.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you've got Muslim, and then you've got black and white Muslim.
Obviously, outside of this conversation, I am just Muslim. We were talking about it because if you keep my name, we wanted to know why, and it's because I still recognise myself as a guy who's grown up in this country.
Right. So
I'm not saying Muslims need to go around and say you're a brown Muslim, you're a white Muslim.
Yeah.
That's not what. That's not what.
So you're saying that your name
It's on camera, boy.
part of part of whiteness. Your name, keeping your name, helped you to keep white values. Is that what
That wasn't my thought. That may be, but my thought was to keep my identity. If my identity is whiteness, and look, can you define it? 'Cause I'd like to know what your. I don't. When you say whiteness, I have a feeling that you have some complicated thing that I don't. Not complicated, but you probably have something that I'm not
I
understanding.
think people generally just say I'm black, I'm white, just out of just a word rather than some ideology.
Yes.
So I think that's what he doesn't see. He doesn't see an ideology, he just sees.
And look, it may be good for you to explain to me because maybe white people don't necessarily look as deep into me.
Well, that's what he's talking about when he says whiteness. I have no clue what he's talking about.
Well, you regard yourself as a white man?
No, but he says whiteness. I don't know what that means.
No, forget that. You regard yourself as a white man?
I don't know what that means. I only regard myself as a
Yes or
human.
no question.
All right, you're
No,
just
I don't
human.
do yes and no questions when it's a complicated thing.
I regard
You
myself.
either regard yourself
Yeah,
as a white
so
man.
do I. What do you mean we're white? What do you mean?
No, I can't be bottlenecked.
Do you see
Why
me
is
as
it
a white?
bottleneck
I'm human, bro.
Just say no if you don't.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Do you
I'm
see?
saying I'm human.
Do you see him as a white man? Do you see him as a white man? Do you see him as a white man?
I do.
Okay.
But what does that mean?
No, but
Is it just
there's no
physical observation?
reference for me to speak to you because you don't even understand whether or not you regard yourself as a white man or not. There's nothing for me to work with.
Well, I think there needs to be a definition of what whiteness is.
Of course.
Whiteness
Because
often like tries to set
Sure, right.
doesn't have to because everything around you is positive to whiteness.
I do feel that something when you talk about white and black or white and colour metaphor and I see free stuff, there are a few Europeans who, up until the conversation, will happily identify as white. And when we start talking about are you white, then you get the human answer.
That's right.
And
That's right.
And this is interesting, like,
Yes,
why
right.
this is.
Watch it.
Yeah.
Watch
Why
it very
this is
carefully.
happening? Because obviously someone like you, I see you pushing your guidance forward. So rather,
So European will suddenly say they're not white.
well, this,
So you're saying it's almost like a British.
I don't know, but what I'm saying, this gentleman, it seems like he's not really forthcoming whether he's white or he doesn't understand the conversation. But I suspect, like, his look outside
So
of
if there was a German man standing, do you think he would be less likely to call himself a white man?
I think that there is like an unwritten code of understanding that people of European descent generally know what being white means, right? And when amongst yourself,
That's right.
it flows naturally. But when it comes to
I get what you're saying because
when it comes to discussions, it's like
a British person will call himself British and a German person will actually call himself European. They won't call themselves German. I don't know that goes along the
But
same
then both will come together under whiteness as in we're both
Whiteness,
white.
that's right.
Like, for example, you know when like in your family, you say there's a high population of white people, and there's many times where you're just white in the room, and there's some conversations might just go on with white than with other people groups because it might not be appropriate,
And
right?
when I was younger, all my friendship crowds were white.
Exactly. So your conversation might change from when you step into an Asian group.